Whether you want to capture a race, a vacation, or just a really good ride, you have more options than ever for action cameras. 360 cameras, 8K cameras, tiny cameras, and new models are coming thick and fast. But what's actually worth using, and how can you get the most from the camera that you have? In this video, I'll compare the latest from DJI and Insta360, the dominant players in the market for both the tiny little cameras and the new 360 cameras. I'll also talk about placement for any type of camera. The chesty, on your handlebars, under the saddle, on your jersey, on your helmet, in your mouth, in your hand, or on your friend's bike. I'll also tell you what I use and why and how, including the Hover Pro Max and my phone. Primarily, you need to consider what it is you're after with this. Are you looking for just short clips to put on Strava or Instagram, or are you looking for a longer, more sophisticated, edited piece? 3 initial things for you to consider. 1, as my buddies at Bike Radar used to say, the best way to ruin a bike ride is to make a video about it. Or similarly, in Graham Watson's How to Photograph the Tour de France book, his first point of advice was if you want to take photos of the Tour de France, don't. Just use the photos of professionals who are out there, and if you're there at the tour, enjoy the experience. That said, making a video can change your perspective quite literally on a ride and can be a fun thing to do. Thing 2, don't be a dummy and put yourself in hospital the way this dummy did, riding in the Dolomites with the hand off the handlebars. Thing 3, the best camera to use is the one you have and know how to use. I've had a lot of friends get a camera right before a race or a vacation and realize in the moments right before the vacation starts or the ride starts, they have no idea how to use the thing and what they're going to do with the footage. But I understand the question. People want to know what the best is. I ask that all the time to my buddies who are pro photographers and pro videographers, and their answer is often pretty pragmatic, something along the lines of like, well, I'm sort of stuck with Canon because I've already got a bunch of lenses, or I use Red because it impresses my customers. Similarly, my advice here will be more on the pragmatic side of what I use and why, and not an in-depth feature by feature by feature spec comparison list. You can do that yourself. Instead, I'm going to give you my real-world experience with individual models and then categories of cameras. Things like, I wanted to love this Insta3 for how small it is, how it switches between horizontal and vertical, and how it can magnetically clip to a jersey, but then the thing shakes around so much the footage is useless. Similarly, 360 cameras can be cool, but they are heavy things, and in order to get a nice perspective looking back at you, you need to have it pretty far away, which ends up with a long weight leveraged way out. While you can get some super cool footage and points of view with a 360 camera, you're never going to look cool with this giant camera strapped way out to the front of your bike. It can be distracting and at worst can be dangerous. So that's where we're going with this video. Sound good? Please take a second to subscribe and turn on your notifications. That helps me out. Now let's dive into the current landscape of cycling cameras in 2025. I'll build a little menu in so you can jump around if you like. I'm gonna go head to head of the Insta360 and DJI little cameras, the 360 cameras from each of these, some advice I have on placement and thinking about how you're going to shoot, tell you what I use and why. I want to note that this is not sponsored by Insta or DJI, although both companies have asked me multiple times, hey, could we pay you to do a review or pay you to do a video? Nope, that's not what we're doing here. I do want to make it clear that I am sponsored by Hover with their Pro Max, which I use all the time. This is a great tool. I appreciate it quite a bit. If you've seen my videos, you've probably seen a fair amount of this 8K footage, but I want to make it clear that Hover is absolutely a sponsor of the ride. I appreciate them, and Insta360 and DJI are not. Let's start with the little guys. Insta360 Go 3S and the DJI Nano. Is smaller better? Can be. Like I mentioned at the top of this, I like the fact that both of these can clamp to a little magnetic necklace you can put under your jersey. That's a handy thing and ends up in some ways like having a chesty mount, except while this is a stable thing, this big man bra, this is not a stable thing. I put this underneath a jersey, not a looser jersey like this, but a tighter jersey, and it would still flap around quite a bit.
It was just like shaking around everywhere.
So while this Insta has a better interface than the DJI, this little piece, you can adjust the angle, which is good when you're on a bike. You want to see where you're going, not just the top tube, right? That adjustability is cool. And this 90-degree swivel is cool. The footage is too jiggly. Both of these cameras work very well for pedestrian activities, So if you're just walking around in your garage or in a beautiful place, this works well. But riding on, especially a gravel bike, maybe road bike, you'd have better luck with it. But for me, wanted to love it, did not. What I have loved with this Nano, even though it's a little bit larger, is using it. What's going on, first? This is a Pro Standard bite mount, and you can mold it to your teeth, which helps it keep in place without having to bite down super hard. This is a nice use, I think, for a small camera, and it gives the point of view similar to a chesty of having the context of the arms. Context is good for videos for sure. It's always best to have someone in front of you, not just open road or open trail. The weight of the Nano and the stabilization is good enough. I mean, here's some footage you can judge for yourself, but that has been a better use of this small camera than having it magnetically attached. With both small cameras, you can also put it on a helmet if you like. Both have little monitors that they clip either into or onto, and that can help you with the initial placement when you're trying to figure out if you're filming the sky or filming the people in front of you or you're filming your knees. So that is a benefit to these, but it kind of, in my mind, negates the benefit of having a small camera if you've just got more stuff to deal with. So a lot of promise, less functional deliverables, in my humble opinion, with the exception of the bite mouth viewpoint with this. Also, battery life is lower the smaller you go, right? Compared to something like just the standard. This is the DJI Action 5, like the GoPro style. People call a lot of these GoPros still because GoPro was the early player in the market. Now they've been kind of sitting on their laurels, and DJI and Insta360 are eating their lunch. 360 cams. Two benefits for these style cameras in my mind. One, you can get all sorts of weird creative framing if you like. And two, there's no need to frame. And that, as I mentioned with the smaller cameras, having the angle correct before you start filming is key. If you've got a 360 camera, just turn the thing on and you've got all the points of view covered. And then later, when you go back to edit it, you can determine where exactly you want the camera to be pointing. Some of my friends who work in bike media appreciate this when they're trying to do things like capture a derailleur or a sight-on mount. Instead of having to hold the camera at exactly the right angle, they just put it in the general neighborhood and they capture something. Also, you can use this if you're shooting a rider in front of you, a friend or just someone in an event, and you can track that rider as if you were holding the camera and directing it with your hand, but doing so while the camera is safely mounted. Having a camera safely mounted is important. More on that in a bit. So cool options here. The footage continues to get better and better. This is DJI's first 360. This is the fifth from the brand, literally called Insta360. It shoots in 8K. Its quality is incredible. That's a neat thing about electronics. The weight and the look, and as I mentioned, the leverage way out front, still not so cool. I've got a 4 here that cracked on one gravel ride in Boulder. I was doing a Thank Gravel It's Friday ride, and was just on a washboardy road, so not a particularly rough section. It wasn't like we're on mountain bike trails, but just on washboardy road. And the thing on the front of the bike was doing this, and then started doing it even more. Like, that's not good, and it cracked the frame of the thing. I should have, in retrospect, did what I did immediately after, which was purchase this $65 frame, which clamps around the camera and then clamps to here, but then you just got so much metal sitting out front. It's ugly and heavy at best, and can be dangerous. Like this, I'm always worried that something's gonna snap off, and I've had that happen with just a standard camera. with the DJI underneath at Unbound Gravel one year on a K-edge mount. A couple of the screws came loose on the thing through so much rattling, and then the thing busted in half and I had to like tear it off. So that's not something that you want when you're riding your bike. You want to be thinking about enjoying your time, not is this camera going to go in my front wheel and send me over the bars. Case in point, I just went over super soft sandy bumps in the arm, which I had cranked down to the point where it felt like it was going to crack, was just dig, 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 working its way down, which is why I say this can be dangerous. The farther away the camera gets, however, the better the image is. So, you know, you guys have seen these poles, which the software for both companies can make disappear, although sometimes it makes the handlebar disappear too because it thinks the handlebar is this bar. This looks cooler for the video, but on the bike, this does not look cooler, nor is this super stable, right? If the end result is decent looking footage because it's less distorted, you know, the closer the camera gets to your face, the more distorted it's going to be. So that point of view looks good, but having this on the front of your bike is not something you would normally do, right? So if you have a very specific goal in mind, having long contraptions can help, but in my experience, it's not something I'm keen on doing. Similarly, you can also put it behind, like strap it off the back of your bike to achieve a quasi-drone-like look, but then you've got this thing flapping around behind you, so not super keen on that. What I have been doing for years, though, that achieves a similar aim to having this way out in front is the humble saddle rail mount. You know, I'll often bug my buddies with a tired joke that I keep using all the time of like, hey, can I put something between your legs and then reach down periodically between your legs and turn you on? This works well for getting the face-on point of view behind a buddy. This obviously doesn't work quite as well in a race, but if you're just doing a nice ride with your friends, you're on vacation, this is a tried and true way to get footage looking at you and hopefully capturing the beautiful scenery behind. A tip there is have the camera facing away from the sun, not into the sun. You'll get better results that way. I like the DJI network for a couple reasons. One is just this handy magnetic clip system, which just goes on easily, pops off so you can recharge, or pops off so like when you get to that cool cafe, you can walk in and have this thing with you. Not exclusive anymore to DJI, but just a very good system that I appreciate. Placements. Variety is the spice of life. Different, diverse points of views can make a video, even a very short one, more interesting to watch, and it can make it more fun for you to do. I've made a crack at the top about how filming a bike ride is the best way to ruin a ride, but it can also be a fun way to literally get a different point of view on a ride that you do all the time. Having a single point of view can work if what you are seeing is interesting. Like our man Joe Ghetto, who's been racing Lifetime Grand Prix and other top-end gravel races, is often in a front group and will capture a lot of the action. He puts full-length videos on his site that a lot of people watch when on the trainer in the winter. And since he's up there in the action, capturing the action, that's cool. If you're riding by yourself and there's just a road in front of you or just dirt in front of you, that is super boring, so don't do that. Putting the camera under the bar for that straight ahead point of view is the safest thing. You can get to it easily and you can keep your hands on the bar almost all the time. So that's what I often use, and I usually have one of these guys just set under my computer mount so it's always there as an option. Chesty is another thing I use quite a bit because it's a fixed position thing, like especially for events when I can't put a camera on a buddy's bike because they're gonna ride away from me. Having it on your chest gives some context, which I think helps, you know, just seeing the handlebars moving around, seeing riders in front of you, and it's just easy and safe to get to while you're riding, even if you're in an event. I like having the volume turned up on all the things so I can, you know, just have the auditory feedback in addition to the tactile feedback of like, is this thing on, is it off, without having to do that because that's not a safe thing, obviously. So Chesty's a good thing. Joe Ghetto's pro move is to put it on under his jersey, so this isn't around the jersey, but end result's the same as a nice steady purchase, and it works a lot better than the magnetic clip, although I wish this thing would work well. This is a lot more stable. The helmet can look cool as far as the vantage point, but I don't like the extra weight on the helmet because you have to strap your helmet down tighter. It looks dorky, and I move my head around often, so unless you're using a 360, which is even more weight and even goofier, there's a chance that you're going to be filming in a direction that you don't want. So the helmet cam is not something that I advise. Mouth clip, it's a good one. This is kind of close to the hand position thing of like, you got to be careful doing it, of like digging it out of your pocket. If you're in a race, there's a chance you could drop the thing, right? Whereas if it's fixed to your chest or fixed to the bike, you're not going to drop it. But this is pretty sturdy, and it leaves you both hands to hold onto the bars. Filming by hand, use discretion. Again, I put myself in the hospital doing this. If you know where you are and you're going uphill, or better yet, you're just standing by the side of the road, the hand works well. But whenever possible, keep the camera fixed to the bike or to the body. Quick tips on settings. Stabilization is your friend, especially if you're riding off-road. Having jiggly footage, nobody wants to watch that. The more you stabilize, the more the frame will be cropped in, so that's something to keep in mind. And that's something that is a bit in favor of a 360, is that when you have a normal camera or a small camera on a chesty, if it's on the wrong angle and it's cropped in more, then that decreases the likelihood that you're going to get good footage. You can also change the type of view. The super wide fisheye makes things look fast. I'll use that sometimes, but it also distorts the far angle, so like your wheels will look funny if you're shooting from the side on. Straighter is cleaner, but it has a slightly narrow point of view. If you have the chesty on and fisheye, your arms will look crazy. So that's something you can play with ahead of time. And again, a tip about settings is play with them before you go on your vacation, before you get into the race, before you're at the beautiful place, so you know what you're going to get, or at least have an idea of what the settings are. Just like anything else on your bike, practice makes perfect, right? Sound is getting better on these cameras, and there's a few different wind reduction options built into the cameras. But if you really need or want good audio, you really need a dedicated mic. For most of you, I'm guessing you're not going to be blabbering like I am endlessly to a camera, so the audio might not be key, but if you want good audio, get a mic. That's my advice, and get something with a dead cat on the top. The one thing I like about these DJIs is that they connect quickly to all sorts of different cameras, like the Pocket 3, which I'm talking to now here in the alley of my mother-in-law's casita here in Albuquerque. Another thing I dig about DJI is how the batteries come with a little charger, and the batteries carry over from one type of camera to the next. When they go from like the Action 4 to Action 5, still the same battery size. And going from the Action 5 to the 360, still the same battery size. So totally different than what somebody like Apple does, coming out with a different charger battery option, seeming like every time they come out with a new model. So that is one in favor for me in the DJI column. I need to take my own advice and switch up the framing and point of view here. Here's some advice on how to shoot. Keep it short, keep it tight, and keep it varied. Thinking about where this is going will help you, right? Or you want to put a little smidgen on Instagram or on your Strava, or do you want to put together a little highlight reel? When I'm shooting, I'll turn it on for 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. You don't want to film 3 hours and then hope you can go back through all that and find the good 2 or 3 seconds. So how do you know when to shoot that good stuff? Helps to know where you are. If you've ridden the course before or the area before, that helps. So that's part of why I suggest, if you're on vacation in a place you've never been before, to just be there and enjoy the ride. Because that way you can just soak in the experience and also see where you're going, not crash yourself instead of thinking about, oh, how can I capture all these different beautiful things, and run right into the back of a parked truck or something. A variety of angles can be good. One thing I think is fun about making videos is jumping ahead and getting off the bike and shooting my buddies as they're coming past from different angles, like behind the trees or, you know, underneath bushes, whether that's with the phone, you know, or a camera that I've got on the chest and I can pop off. So having something besides just that straight on point of view helps spice things up for both the end viewer and for you as the shooter as you're trying to tell a visual story. Now you've got a batch of stuff. What do you do? How do you edit? You can edit on the phone. All these camera companies now have apps that work on phones and on your desktop if that's how you choose to operate. You can also, if you're just doing shorter clips, use like your computer's built-in software, like a preview type function. You can just trim short clips down, do some basic color correction if you like, and then that works for social media for sure. If you're a more advanced editor, more advanced than I, then you should be giving me tips on how you use Premiere Pro or DaVinci or what have you. Last bit of advice would be to dump your footage immediately when you finish and start charging if you're going to ride for multiple days. So always be saving, always be charging. Now what do I use? I lean heavily on the good old-fashioned action cameras. Like this is the DJI Action Cam 5. I've had, I don't know, dozens of cameras from GoPro to Insta to DJI over the years. They all work pretty well and they all get better and better. I love, as I've shown, the magnetic attachment of these guys. We'll have it on the chesty often, we'll have it on the bars often, we'll have it on the saddle rails of both my bike and Buddy's bikes often. The battery life is killer on these things. Although I probably should bring an extra battery with me, I'll often start a long gravel race with just a single card and a single battery, and by turning it off and on for just 30 seconds, a minute or two at a time, can easily get through a full event with plenty of battery to spare. I've been enjoying the Nano in the mouth. I was just in Italy for the Bindolani White Roads gravel adventure with Ngamba. That was a heck of a trip, and there was so much scenery there that I wanted to shove into these tiny cameras. 360 cameras are cool, but I've used those ones a lot more sparingly, in part because it just adds more time to the editing process, and I'm still a very slow video editor. The tracking feature, though, is cool, and it's a safer way than holding your camera by hand and trying to track someone. Often, especially for gravel, the most visually exciting places are also the places where you most need to have your hands on the bar. So being able to have the tracking feature and the safety of two hands on the bars, that's a good thing. Just the weight, there's no getting around that. And then lastly, what's been a game changer for me is the hover, right? When these guys started just a couple years ago, footage was 720 and the max speed was 14 miles an hour. So I'd use it, just at the top of some climbs and then maybe for a zoom out shot. As I mentioned, Hover is a sponsor. Very much appreciate these guys. So I want to be clear that Hover does support the channel, but I love this thing. Now at 8K, you can go up to 28 miles an hour. Select the mode. I use the follow most often. Press it again so it locks on you, and then you're off to the races. Compared to a drone that you pilot or a friend pilots, that even when they have the lock-on features, it just takes a lot longer to get the thing up in the air and locked in. This is super easy to use, and the footage, I think, is pretty stellar. I've been loving the fact that I can just stick it in a jersey pocket. The batteries last 12 to 15 minutes or so, so I'll often bring a couple of these batteries in the frame bag. I'll use this in front, the side track shot or the follow, and then you can also set the different heights, like flat, medium, high. I use the zoom out sometimes for a contextual shot to show off where I'm riding. I was just at Costco a couple nights ago picking up some stuff, and I saw that you can get the GoPros there, you can get the Osmos, and they also sell hovers there at Costco, at least here in Albuquerque. So this has been a sweet tool for me. I very much enjoy playing with it because it allows me to show off some of the lovely places that I ride. And then lastly, I use my phone a lot, especially for photos, but some videos too. Like, as I mentioned, I jump off my bike and try to get cute with different angles. And critically, this makes it super easy to share, which I think is kind of the main idea when we're capturing our adventures on bikes, is you want to be able to share with your buddies, right? And it turns out you probably have a lot of good technology right in your back jersey pocket. So that's it for this one. Let me know what questions you have. Thanks to Hover for the support, and thank you for understanding the difference between paid support and unpaid reviews. I want you to know where the money is coming from and what you are getting. Like with my bike reviews, my opinions might be wrong sometimes, but at least you know that they are honest. As far as filming, do it if you want. Don't do it if you do not want. But regardless, I hope you can get out there and enjoy the ride.